Okay, so let's go ahead and begin putting together our shell paper sculpture. And I'm just gonna go ahead and work layer by layer here. We'll do some of the easier things first, just to get some of the pieces out of the way. So I have this piece here, these two pieces here actually. This one's gonna go on top of this one. I did do some inking and shading on the little waves just to add a little bit of interest. And what we're gonna do is we are simply going to glue this piece to the larger piece. Okay, so go ahead and just get this glued down. If you have some tape that you would rather use, that's fine, as long as it's like a really good tape, because some of those tape runners that I've used, they just don't really work very well. They kind of don't hold things in place very well at all. And I've been sort of anti until I can try like a really good permanent tape that actually works. So I'm just gonna go ahead and glue this on. Okay, just make sure you get that nice and aligned perfectly so that you've got that nice little border. And we're using a silver foil there. Okay, so we're gonna let that dry for just a minute. Okay, and you're gonna grab this piece here. This piece is about 11.4 inches, and it's just a square, but it has these little cutouts on it. Let me see if I can angle this so that you can see the little cutouts. They're a little difficult to see. But what I want you to do is take a look at the cutouts, and you want to face it towards you with the bottom part that has a little tiny little notch right there. It's just almost like a horizontal notch. It's dead center in the middle, okay? So if you go this way, or this way, you won't see that single notch there. This is the single notch that's right in the center towards the bottom third of the sheet. This is the way that you want to have it, okay? And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna pop this into place, and I am using foam squares, okay? These work really great for our paper sculptures, and what you want to do is stagger these so that you have very good support going all the way around the project. I would begin by putting 2 on one side in the corners there, and then 2 on the other side. And then just kind of, before we peel off the little sticky pieces, we're gonna flip it over and kind of figure out where we need more of these. Okay, so obviously, without even flipping it over, I can already tell that we want to put some more support right in the middle. Okay, so one little tip, and I don't know, you can use something else if you want. I've found that peeling back the little sticky things on the back of these foam squares can be kind of difficult, even if you have really good fingernails. It doesn't want to come off very easily. So if you can find, you may have like a little weeding tool that you've used for your vinyl projects. I think that might work really well. I have some razor blades from my box openers or box cutters. I had a whole stack of them, so I just grabbed one of those, and the little tip of it works really well for this process here, and it just saves me a lot of time. So if you've got one, definitely use it. Okay, so again, and I'm gonna stand up to do this so I don't mess up. You wanna go ahead and get this piece nice and aligned on the bottom and on the sides, and just push that down and make sure that it gets a good hold. Okay, now these parts here, I wasn't really happy with the inking on these. I kind of practiced over here because these are gonna be covered up. So if you're gonna put ink on that, practice on the bottom and on the sides, and then really get really good inking up at the top. So luckily that worked out nicely for me, and very happy with the results. Okay, so what we can do next is we can actually work on the little frame here. Okay, if you've got a really good spray glue and you want to use spray glue to adhere this to itself, that might be a good idea, because it is a fairly large piece with a lot of little nooks and crannies. And I'm actually going to not use spray glue. I'm going to use regular glue. mostly because I've just not had a great experience with spray glue either. And I don't know if it's humidity or what, but it tends to kind of fall apart on me. So I'm gonna go ahead and just gently and quickly work my glue around. And actually, you know, what you can probably do is, because it's gonna be, especially with this glue, almost impossible to get every side of this filled with glue. So I'm gonna do half of it and put it down and then just lift up a part of it, the other half that's not glued, and just apply the glue, just making sure that I don't bend it in the process. Okay, so I'm gonna do that and see how that works. And I have a feeling that it'll work just fine. Okay, let's go ahead and make sure that we have this nice and aligned. Okay. Let me move this piece of paper out so we don't get any glue on it. And just kind of work your way around, making sure that you have it nice and lined up. Okay. I don't remember which side has the glue on it, but that's okay. I have a feeling it's okay, so it's that side. So you see here, most of it's pretty much glued down. Some of it isn't, but I can lift that up safely without bending or creasing it, so I'm totally cool with that. And I'm gonna go ahead and put glue on the rest of this and just get that glued into place. Okay, so what we're gonna do next is we're going to get this into place. And what we wanna do with our foam squares is we wanna raise this up, this bottom part up one layer of foam squares, and then everything up here is gonna need to be 2 layers of foam squares. Okay, so up to, let me see where up to about just below this first scallop here, everything's gonna be 1 square. Okay, same with this. Anything above this scallop is gonna be 2 squares deep. Okay, so I'm gonna flip this back over and I'm gonna grab my foam squares, if I can find them. I don't know where I put them. Here they are. Okay, so just like we did before, we wanna definitely make sure that the corners are nice and supported. So I will start with the corners, and then I will go in the center, just to make sure that I've got it nice and evenly distributed. Okay, and remember just before that scallop. Okay, so I'm gonna go here, and I'm gonna go here, and then I'm gonna flip this over and just kind of push down. And you see here, I'm hitting the table when I push down. So we obviously need some more support in between these two, or these pieces here. So let's add one there, and then let's add one here. And let's flip it back over and kind of push down. And I mean, we can go crazy with these and like really add a lot of support. I don't think that's necessary, but what I do want to do is I'm going to add one here. Okay, just so that that part, I want that to really be pronounced and stand out nicely. Okay, so now going up here, I'm going to do the same thing up here, except remember, once we peel off the first layer up here, we need to put another layer on it, okay, because we want this to be 2 layers deep. Okay, so we're just kind of mimicking what we did at the bottom as far as the foam squares go. And I know it's a lot of foam squares, but these are really cool projects. I'm going to center that one. I'm going to center that one. And I'm going to put one here. I'm going to put one here. Okay, let me flip this over and just kind of push down lightly. Okay, I think I'm going to put one here and probably put one there. Okay, so you see, those are the 2 areas that had the largest gaps. So I'm going to fill that in with another square. Okay, and remember, the areas above this first scallop here are going to be 2 layers. Okay, so let's get that in place. I'm not going to peel these off just yet. I'm going to go ahead and peel off the ones that require the 2 layers. At one point, I tried not taking off the sticky backing on these and tried to put another layer on it, but it just didn't hold as well. The glue on glue is going to give you an even better hold. Okay, so we'll take these off. We'll get our next layers on, and then we can get on with the rest of the construction of this thing. It's actually a really fun project, really simple. I did a lot of inking beforehand, just because some of you may not ink. We decided that we wanted to ink it just to kind of give it more interest. And technically, if you wanted to, you could probably do this in like all white colors, or a lot of like similar toned colors would actually be kind of cool too. Okay, so I'm just adding another layer. I'm going to try to be very precise with the placement on this to help with the support. Okay, so just go ahead, add another layer, just like that. And then we're going to peel off that backing as well as the backing on the bottom. And we can go ahead and lay this thing down onto our main piece there. Okay. And this stuff, with the paper sculptures that we've created a few months ago, this stuff's holding on really well and standing the test of time, or withstanding the test of time, I should say. So it's working out really well with these. You can try to use pop dots, but I think that they kind of don't work as well. All right, so 2 layers up here below the scallop. We've got a single layer. So I'm going to go ahead and start peeling off the backing on my little foam dots. And we're going to get this piece in place. And we'll get to use some more glue here in a little bit when we put together our shell. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what you guys do with this and what your vision is for it. I saw some really cool, I don't even think they were paper sculptures. They were just little decorative pieces that I saw, I think it was at Pottery Barn, that sort of inspired this bundle, especially with the shells. Ron loved the idea of creating a mermaid, so I said go for it. I think that would be really cool. And when I was prop shopping today, looking for props for the photo shoot, I saw tons of mermaids, because I know that nautical stuff right now is really hot. And I don't know how many people actually decorate every time there's a new trend. I personally just kind of stick to what I like. But I'm sure that one of these pieces will find a place in my home. Okay, so this is the section here at the bottom that's going to go just above the waves. Okay, so go ahead and get this placed, and don't drop it until you know for sure that you've got it perfectly lined up. That's a whole bunch of sticky going on. I'm going to make sure that you get it nice and centered. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. And if it's slightly off, it's fine. Mine came out pretty darn good. That really created a really cool frame for the rest of this project here. And what we can go ahead and do at this point is we can get our little sand dollars. I did go ahead and ink these just a little bit, and I'm going to raise these up too to add a nice little shadow underneath this. Okay, so I'm going to use my 1/4 inch squares on this. I think they'll work nicely for this. Let me just grab one and take it off and just throw it away, because it's impossible to get that first one off, I've found. And let's see, this might be a little bit, maybe a little oversized, but I think. Okay, so with these 1/4 inch foam squares, for these little silver dollars, or not silver dollars, sand dollars, I would probably go ahead and cut these in half, because I feel like it might be they might be too big to fit the full 1/4 inch piece. So I'm gonna just go ahead and cut these in half. They cut in half pretty easily, okay? And I think you could probably get away with, I don't know, 2 or 3 on there. Should probably do the trick. Just kind of put them out towards the outside. That one didn't really cut very well. Okay, so I'm just gonna cut this in half. Try to get it nice and centered there. Okay, and just go ahead and apply that onto your silver dollar, your sand dollar, I'm sorry. And I would probably position them, you know, it might be easier just to kind of cut these right on here. There we go. So now I have a strip of 1/8 inch by 1/4 inch little foam squares. So you saw how I did that. I literally just cut it right on the original backing that it came on. Okay, and just kind of position them almost like a little tripod. Just peel off the backing. Okay, and then you can go ahead and stick it right on to the frame like that. Make sure you leave a little border around the outside. Okay, so that's kind of how that should look. So you want to go ahead and repeat that process with the remaining sand dollars, and then we can go ahead and move on to the next part. So let me show you what I meant here by doing it like a tripod, just to kind of distribute the weight evenly on this. Just kind of create like a tripod. The tripod's got 3 legs. Just pretend that we're supporting this thing from 3 different sides. And I know it's a little, this shape is a little not symmetrical, so it's not going to be a perfect tripod, but as long as you get it close. And for some reason, after I cut these, they're a lot easier to peel off with just my fingers, which is nice. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and position that right about there. Just push that down nicely. Okay, so go ahead and continue that, and we will continue with the rest of the project. Okay, so we are making some progress here, and the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put down my seaweed. Okay, and there are some markers here to help you with the alignment of the seaweed. Okay, these taller ones are going to go up on top. Okay, and they kind of go at, well, there's little cutouts here. Okay, the one that looks like a little U is to help you align this little valley. Okay, so that's going to go right in the valley, and then the one that looks like an N is to help you align the tip of this side here. Okay, so that shows you where that goes, and then there's also a little U here to help you with the alignment of that one. Okay, so the piece is going to go like that. Okay, and of course, the mirror version of that, the other side, if I can find it, well, it looks like it was staring me right in the face the entire time it was right there. I didn't even see it. Okay, and that's going to go right there. Okay, but now what I want to do is I'm actually just going to glue this section down because I want some dimension there. Okay, so I'm going to grab this. I'm going to grab I think this is an 1/8 inch dowel. I'm just going to curl this out a little bit. Okay, I'm going to kind of bend that one over a little bit like that. Okay, and just to kind of pull that out just a tiny bit, probably just the little tips there. Okay, and then I'm going to go ahead and get glue just on the stem of this. We'll call it the stem. Okay, just a little bit. You don't need a lot. Most of it's going to be covered up anyway, so just make sure that you've got that properly lined up. There's no glue up here, so it's okay. And then just make sure that you've got that part lined up and go ahead and glue that down. Okay, so you kind of see how that's sticking out. If you want, oops, you may want to put a little pop dot under there, as it may want to kind of sag eventually, but you know what, I'm not too worried about it. Maybe what I'll do is I'll just put a little dot of glue right here just to anchor this part so that doesn't come. I think that's going to be fine. okay? So we'll do the same thing to the other side. Go ahead and put glue. I'm gonna put it on the stem first, just to make sure that I get it aligned properly. Okay, so that's gonna go about there, and that's going there, and that looks great. Okay, and there's no rule saying that you can't curl this back after you have it in place. You can do it at any time. Okay, and then I'm just gonna pop a little bit of glue right there, just to anchor that. We really only want these little pieces to pop out, okay? All right, so that's that. We do have some additional seaweed pieces that go down here, okay? And again, there's a little U cut out here, and that's the valley for that, so that's where that goes, okay? And there's a little, I guess it's like an N, but not really. It's just this edge here of the little seaweed part to show you where that butts up, okay? And then there's also a little U shape down here to help you with the alignment on that piece. Okay, so I am gonna go ahead and curl these out just slightly. Okay, and I am gonna go ahead and put glue on the stem. Just a little bit. And that'll hold it nicely. Just remember to get that aligned properly. Oops, there we go. Okay, that looks great. Get the other one in place, and we can start working on our shell. Okay. Oops, let me curl this before I get it in place. That's nice. Just want to keep everything nice and symmetrical. Okay, so that's perfect. All right, now what we're going to do is begin assembling the actual shell. So, and actually, that's really the only part left, and we're going to go ahead and pop dot that onto this once we're done. And then actually, this piece is going to go on this piece, and it's going to look really sharp when we're all done here. So this is the base of our shell, okay, and I've done a lot of pre-inking, okay. I did some inking on these, and I'm going to show you how I did all this stuff here. I have two pieces that I didn't do. We're going to actually use this as a template to place all the little pieces, okay. I also inked that just in case you do see a little side here or there. This piece is going to get glued onto this piece like this. Okay, so you can go ahead and get that glued on. And I've got a flower here that I inked, and I am also going to go ahead and train this flower to make it more interesting. Okay, so I'm just kind of doing some prep work here on these pieces. Okay, there we go. And these are the little overlays that go on top of the little segments of the shell. But let me show you what I did with the shell pieces, okay? So there's a total of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, okay? And they all have different shapes, but they all operate the same exact way, okay? So you're gonna start with a piece like this, and what you wanna do is you wanna fold at the score marks, just these score marks here. The other score marks here are to help you align the little overlay pieces, okay? So once you have it folded, okay, what we want to do is we want to train this, okay? And the best way to train it, in my opinion, is with a, this is a 3/8 inch dowel, okay? And what I did was I took it and I just kind of cupped it in my hand, and I just began kind of running that dowel on the paper to kind of give it a roundness, I guess, okay? And it's okay if you go over the score marks, because the score marks are going to be hidden, okay? And that just made that piece nice and round without creasing it, okay? So, in addition, what I also did was I ran my fingernail across the edge to kind of clean up those little score marks. Now, we're not including actual score marks yet, because not every machine out there has that capability. So until then, we just have to kind of work with what we have and clean it up. And what I also did was I took my dowel, I kind of closed this up just to kind of give it some strength, and I ran my dowel along the edge of those score marks to kind of flatten them out so they don't show up as well. Okay, it just makes it look nice and clean and flattens out the paper. Okay, and then I took my favorite ink. This is my pumpkin spice ink, which just so happens to pretty much work on all sorts of stuff that we've been doing. And I inked the edges of my shell and started off by just making sure that the edge of it is nice and pronounced. And then I did lighter inking, moving inward a little bit, just to kind of give it a graduated gradient look. Okay, so you see how it's pretty harsh on the end there, but as you move in, it kind of softens up. Okay, and I really like that look. So I'm going to go ahead and just get everything inked. There's nothing here at the top on this round part that you have to fold. You want to maintain that look. Okay, and I'm just inking all the sides. Just nice ink job. And again, I'm going to go ahead and soften my stroke here and not push as hard and kind of create a graduated effect with the ink. Just real quick strokes. There we go. Okay. And I'll show you how these get glued here in a second, but I just want to show you this process again. So all these pieces, all 8, you're going to fold. There's one small little tab area and one large one. Just going to fold that. And I'm taking it, cupping it in my hand, and using my dowel, just kind of pushing down. Okay, just kind of almost like you're kneading dough or something. Not that I've done that very much, but just kind of just trying to make this piece nice and round. Okay, and you can see how the light's hitting it. It gives that impression that it's not just a flat piece of paper. So that's really cool. And then again, I just like to kind of flatten out this little score mark area so it's not as pronounced. Okay, just kind of pushing it up against the dowel, or pushing the dowel up against the paper to flatten that out. You can use your nail. If you have some craft sandpaper, you can do that too. It's up to you. It all depends on how deeply your machine scores. Okay, so then I'm going to go ahead and get this inked and use my little graduated effect. And then all that's really left to do is take the little white overlays for these and get those glued into place. And I also did the same thing with those using the dowel to shape them. And I'll show you that. It just makes it a lot easier to glue them onto a round surface when they themselves are also round. Okay, so let me just get my little graduated gradient effect on here, and we'll call it a day with the inking. And I really can't wait to see what this looks like. All I've seen is a prototype that we've put together, which looked cool, but we didn't use any of the real colors or any of the real papers. So this is like literally like the first time I'm putting this together. So hopefully it comes out really cool, which I think it will. Okay, so let me see here. Let me grab these pieces I already did. So let me get rid of those. I'll get those out of the way. And here's 2 that I didn't do. Okay, they come out flat, as you can see. So I'm going to take my dowel, just like I did with that other piece. I'm just going to kind of run the dowel over it like this. And you see what happened there. I just kind of made it nice and moon-shaped. Okay, so we'll put that out to the side. Just run that on your, I like the palm because it's just nice and soft and it gives, so you don't have to worry about creasing anything. Okay, and there we go. Okay, now what we want to do before we get this glued on, I'm going to use my pick-me-up tool. There's a little poker tool. I'm going to go ahead and just use that to lift these pieces out, and I'm just going to train them with my finger. Okay, so you want to make sure that these pieces are out. and that they're not getting glued down, because this is also another part of the sculpture that gives this piece that really cool dimension. Okay, so you can just kind of flare those out just a little bit, just like that. Okay, see how the light's hitting that? It's making it really interesting. Okay, so we want to do that. And what I would suggest doing is just kind of getting these aligned. Now you'll notice that here we have a curve going this way. Okay, so that is going to be on this side of our shell. Okay, as is this one. And then this one is going to go, I believe that is its neighbor. We still have to glue these pieces, so don't worry about how it looks right now. We still have one more step to do here. Okay, and that is the last piece. Just kind of get these aligned and figure out what piece is what. Okay, so you can see you go from largest to smallest on your way out. And that's just going to help us figure out where these pieces go. I'm going to just layer these on top of, put all of them just kind of in a pile. And then I'll take them and just kind of like you're organizing papers. And then just kind of take a look and see which ones are the tallest. Okay, because that's going to go on that one. Okay, the next tallest is here, so that goes there. This one's going to go here. This one's going to go here. This one's going to go here. This one's going to go here, and then I've got two left for the ends. Okay, so that's just a quick way to figure out what goes where. And now we also have little identifiers, little just kind of score marks on there to help you with precise alignment of these pieces here, so that you get it, nice and perfectly aligned and symmetrical and consistent all the way through. So this top little line here, you can see it. I'll show you how this works. Okay, so we just want to get that lined up like so. Okay, so you can see that. So you're going to get all these pieces glued on to all these pieces of the shell. And again, just make sure that before you glue it on, because it may be difficult to get these pieces out if you don't pop them out just slightly before you do the gluing. Okay, so I would highly recommend just kind of pulling these out just a tad so that it's not difficult to get them out later. Okay, so you see how that works, and I just want to make sure that I've got the right size. And actually, you know what we can do is we'll go ahead and let's put these together first before we put the little white pieces on. And Ron had mentioned that when he was prototyping this, he used a little bit of tape at the bottom, okay, to kind of hold the bottom in place. The bottom part of this is going to be covered up, so if you do put a little piece of tape at the bottom to hold this in place, that's fine if that makes your life easier. I'm just going to go ahead and work with just glue. I'm not going to worry about the tape. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and smear that glue out to the edge and get that closed up. Just make sure that you get that nice and aligned at the bottom, and just work your way up. And once you have it nice and flush, you can go ahead and put it on your surface and just hold it down like that until it sets. Okay, so you're going to repeat that with all of these. The process is identical for all of them, and it looks like I missed a little part of that, so let me find where's my razor blade? Kudos if you remember where I put my razor blade. It's probably not good that I misplaced a razor blade, but I'm sure it'll show up somewhere here. There it is. Okay, so I'm just going to take a little bit of glue on a razor blade and just get it into the little area that I missed, just to make sure that my hold is nice and consistent and my project looks fantastic. So I'm just going to hold that in place for just a second until I get that little edge there connected. Okay, and then can go ahead and take this piece and we're going to put glue, and I'm going to do my little dot method on this. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and do my little dot method on this. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and apply it to the part of my shell here. Okay, so just go ahead and make sure that you've got it nice and perfectly aligned using those little score marks as a guide. And just get that right on there nicely. Okay, so there we go. And if you want, you can go ahead and lift these up a little more. I don't think I want them to be overly pronounced, just want them to be subtle. And there you go. So you're going to close these up just like I did with the first one. You're going to put its little corresponding piece on there. And then we can go ahead and start putting this guy together. Okay, so just go over this a couple more times here. What we're going to do is we're going to put glue on this little shorter tab here. Okay, and as usual, I'm going to get it out to the edge there. You're not really going to see it, but I like to just keep my work tidy and consistent. And then we're going to smush that down and get it glued. Try to get it lined up as closely as you can to the edge. And just hold that down. You can actually squeeze down here more if you need to, because that's going to be hidden. But try to keep that raised. Don't squish it down too much on this side here. Okay, so just hold that until it gets a good hold, and then move on to the next one. So same thing here. Just going to put a little line of glue on there and just kind of flatten it out, smooth it out. When I do that, I notice that the glue just grips and just sets a lot quicker when it's thin. It just doesn't take as much time. Okay, so get that in place. You can put it down on your table too. Use the table as leverage if you need to. Okay, and then again, as I said before, all that's really left is to just make sure that, let me just go ahead and line this up really quick here. There's our little shell, looking really pretty. Okay, and we just have to make sure that we've got the right size going on the right shell. Okay, so that one's going to go there, that one goes there, this one goes here, and so on and so forth. Just get these lined up here just to make sure that I've got it right. Okay, all right, so believe that this one's already done and glued on. So again, just make sure that you lift these up before you glue them on. Otherwise, it may be a little difficult to get them out. So just kind of raise them up just like that. Okay, and then we'll go ahead and get this one glued on. Just flipping it over. Let me clean off my nozzle. And the most important thing at this point is with this is just to make sure that you're getting glue out to the sides here, because we're going to be a little more prone to lifting up. So definitely get some glue in the centers there to keep them anchored, but definitely focus a little extra love onto the little side scallops there, just to ensure that it doesn't lift up when we put it down onto this piece. And you can see the little score marks on there. Those are there to help you with the alignment. So you want to go ahead and get that nice and centered on there. Okay, score marks should pretty much disappear once you have it in the right spot. And then just kind of run your fingers along the sides there just to ensure that those sides are not lifting up at all. Okay, give that a few extra seconds to dry, and then grab a little tool or something and just lift these up I don't want to lift them up too much. I just want to add a little bit of interest. I don't want them to be sticking out all that much. Okay, so there's the second one there. Okay, try to keep these in order like that so it's easier to figure out what goes where. Just work your way down here, get all these, the rest of these little decorative pieces on the main part of your shell, and then we can go ahead and start constructing the shell and getting it in place. And we're really almost there. This thing's almost done, so getting excited to see what the final result is going to look like. So go ahead and do that, and I'll meet you here at the next step. Okay, so the next step is taking the individual little pieces of the shell and gluing them to this base piece here. And what you want to do is, there's a series of score lines down here, and there's these vertical ones here. And you just want to make sure that you get these aligned within the border, and then you don't want to go past this little score line section here. So you want to kind of butt that up against there and make sure that you keep it within this little section here. Okay, so you're going to put glue on the back of this, and we're just going to get that glued down. So I'm going to go ahead and do one here, and the rest of it is pretty self-explanatory. So again, just make sure that you have it butted up against that little score mark section at the bottom there, and then keep it within the little boundaries of the vertical score lines, and just hold that down until it dries, and just get all 8 of your pieces glued down. You might need to scooch them around a little bit as you go. Okay, and that is what it should look like. Okay, so go ahead, and I'd probably just go back and forth, do this side, this side, this side, this side, and so on and so forth until you have all your pieces in place. And when you're putting that next piece in there, again, just follow the score marks, and everything should just magically fall into place for you. So go ahead and get these all glued in, and we'll go ahead and continue with the next step. Okay, so I'm just finishing up here. I've got 2 more left, and I'm actually putting glue on here because the little base of the shell is shorter than the actual shell pieces. So I'm putting glue on the actual base of it instead of on the back of it, and that's just ensuring that I don't spill over and get glue where I don't need it. Okay, so just kind of get that in place, and then we got one last one here. Get some glue on there. Okay, and get that in place. Just like that. Okay, and there is our completed shell, and we can go ahead and put the finishing touches on it. Okay, so we're going to cap off the shell by putting this piece on there, and we've got to put this little overlay on top of our little sandy colored piece of paper, and I probably went a little bit heavy on the glue there, so I'm going to just smear that out so it doesn't bleed out on me. So this piece is going to be applied right dead center on this little piece here. Let me bring it closer to the camera for you. So get that nice and centered. Just apply that like that. Okay, and then this piece is going to get glued right on there, and you want the bottom of this flush with the bottom of that piece. Okay, so we're just going to glue that like that, and I may actually go ahead and I'm going to put a little bit of glue up at the top here, but I'm going to go ahead and do a foam square at the bottom. Okay, let's just line that up and see how that sits. Actually, I think we could probably just get away with putting a couple foam squares right there. Let's see how that lines up. Yeah, that's good. Okay, so we'll go ahead and take our little sticky backing off of this, like that. Oops. Got glue on my razor blade. Okay, we're just gonna cover that up nicely. Just pushing that down. Make sure you've got that nice and centered, just like that. Okay, and at this point, you can do this now, you can do this later. You can grab a little tool and just kind of flare these out a little bit more, just to give this piece that added dimensional look. I'm going to try to keep this subtle. I don't want these popping out all that much, but a little bit is good. Just to kind of drop some shadows here and there on the actual shell. And again, this is my handy dandy pick-me-up tool. I find myself using this more and more. Okay. All right, so we've got that. That just leaves our flower, which we're going to put right in the center there, like that. Okay, so I want to go ahead and I'm going to glue this together. I'm going to put a little bit of glue on the back of this flower. I'm going to line that up with the hole on the other flower. Just kind of offset it a little bit, just like that. And just push that together. Okay, and I am going to grab a foam square. I think I can get away with a big one here. Yes, indeed. Okay, so I get that foam square on there, and I've got my little razor blade. Pull that little backing off, and we're going to pop that right on the center of our shell, just like that. Okay, so that's cute, and I'm going to go ahead and probably just curl this in a little bit more, give it a little more dimension. Okay, and really all that's left is to position this thing on our main base here. Okay, and there are some score marks here to help you with that alignment. Okay, so that's going to go like that, and I am going to actually raise that up. So we are going to put a series of foam squares on the back of this guy because we want dimension on this piece too. Okay. Oops. I'm going to kind of lift it off my table so I don't go squishing that flower as I'm putting this stuff down. And I think that's going to be enough. Maybe just put one more in the center there, just so that it stays nice and consistent for us. Okay, so let's peel that off. Okay, so I have all of the sticky backing off of my little foam squares, and again, you want to go ahead and use those little markers there at the bottom to get this thing nice and centered. Okay, and you just push that down in the little various places that have your little foam squares. Okay, so there is basically your finished piece, but we were going to jazz this up with some embellishments here, so we can kind of talk about that a little bit as well. Okay, so kind of decided that I'm going to use some pearls for all this nautical stuff because, for one, it mimics water very well. So I'm putting a nice little white pearl right there on the flower. Okay, and then here you've got these little circles here. I'm going to put pearls there too. So I'm going to find one that fits nicely over that hole. I guess you can go in the hole if you can find one that fits perfectly, or you can cover it completely. I don't really think it matters. I think it's personal preference there. I'm going to pop this one in here and see what it looks like and see if I like that. Let's take a look and see how that looks. I think I'm going to probably use bigger ones to cover that up completely. And just make that stand out a little bit more. There we go. Okay, these actually have a sticky back on them, so typically, and our product developer will tell you that I don't trust the sticky backs. So this one actually has a lot of sticky on it. The smaller ones, they're probably going to fall off. So it's always wise to grab your pick-me-up tool and, well, let me get that off of the table. Just go ahead and put a little bit of glue on the bottom of that thing and glue it into place instead of relying on the actual sticky that comes on the back of it, because it's just not as permanent as the glue. Has a tendency to kind of come off or just not stick at all sometimes, actually. So probably want to get those glued on, but other than that, again, there's really only one step left after this, and that's to get this whole piece glued onto the backing and then really just put it in your frame, which we'll do here in just a minute. Okay, so our final step here is to take this and mount it to our full 12 by 12 sheet. Okay, and your download comes with this little edge piece. Okay, and what you do with this is you take it on a full 12 by 12 and just line it up with the corner so that it's flush with the top and left corner. In this case, we're going to use it on the other sides as well. And that's just to kind of help you with just like a pen. Probably want to use a pencil just in case you don't get it lined up perfectly so that you don't see it. But I'm just going to do a little dot here. Okay, it's a really tiny dot, and actually it's because this marker is almost dead. Okay, and we're going to move it over to this side, pop it in our corner, make sure it's nice and flush, and just mark out that little corner there. Okay, and then you could probably get away with just doing one more corner here. So we'll do the bottom left. This is just to make sure that you get it perfectly centered. There we go. Okay, and just going to glue that right onto your piece here, just using that as a guide to get it nice and centered. Okay, so what I would probably do is I would just kind of get a nice bit of glue around the perimeter, because we don't want that paper in the middle warping. My glue is out of control today. Okay, so just make sure you get enough so that it really gets a good hold. Okay, and then we'll flip it over using those guides to get that nice and centered. That looks good, and that looks even better. Okay, and then just kind of push down, give that a few minutes to really get a hold. Okay, so, and obviously, you know, we did this with some really nice tropical colors, but you're welcome to do whatever you want to do with yours. Okay, so here's my shadow box, and this thing isn't fully dry yet, but I do kind of want to show you what it's going to look like when it's done. Okay, so here, let's see. Actually, let me see if this thing is dry. Yeah, it's pretty good. Okay, so you take your shadow box and just lay that inside. Should fit perfectly. And put the back on it. I'm not going to screw it down. I just want to put the back on it so I can see what it's going to look like. And there is your beautiful finished piece.
Stay on top of all things Dreaming Tree and engage with us today. Get the latest news and enter in our giveaways on Facebook. Get inspired by following us on Pinterest. Be the first to see our new product launches on Instagram. Do you prefer Twitter? Yep, we're there too. Watch our beautiful product trailers and assembly tutorials on YouTube. For more information, visit www.3dsvg.com. Live, craft, love, and dream.